Avalon here. Welcome back to Simply Avalon, and as you can tell from the title, I am here to bring you my best tips for you to ace your finals exam. Really, some of y'all will consider these midterms, but for us, these are our exams, our semester exams, semester finals, whatever you want to call them. I'm giving you tips on how you can ace those exams. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started because this video could get long, but we don't want it to. So as per usual, I am definitely using a list, which I have down below. So if I'm looking down below, it's definitely because I'm looking at my list. So first things first, when you are trying to study for exams, you have to turn things off, okay? I know that we love to have our phones out, hey, maybe even for a timer or anything, but like, we can't be studying and then also on Snapchat. It just doesn't work like that. And when you're distracted, it tends to take you 10 times longer to finish a study session that may have only lasted for about 20, 30, maybe even an hour, 60 minutes. But if you're on your phone, that 60 minutes can easily double to 2 hours. And that does count also, like, some people like to multitask, maybe half and half their screen. I'll watch a little bit of Netflix on one side while also doing Quizlet on the other side. We're not counting that either. Because, let's be honest, when it comes to learning vocab over Netflix, we're always going to choose Netflix over learning vocab or whatever we need to do on our computer. So it's just really important that you choose to turn those distractions off. Even like for some people, it can be music. If you're always constantly having to change the song in your playlist, that's taking away time from what you could be doing, which is studying and having all of your attention on one thing. And that's another thing. I know I'm saying that a lot, but it's really important when you are studying that you just stay focused on one thing, especially with music. Will you be able to take music into the exam? Not necessarily. For most people, that'll be a no. So maybe you should try studying without music so that you don't get caught up with music, if that makes sense. Although I will say for some people, they can actually learn certain things to certain songs so that when they actually are in the exam, they can be like humming the song and it helps them remember what they were studying. So in that case, that's different. So number 2 is to talk. I find that it's very much helpful, like when you're actually like studying material, especially like for history or like science, instead of just reading what's on your page that you're studying, say it out loud. It's almost like by saying it, it's like truly going into your brain. It's just like when you're using flashcards too, like actual written flashcards, if I see the word turnen, that means to do gymnastics in German. So if I see that, I'm going to say turnen, and then I'm going to turn it over and say gymnastics, not just look at it and just think in my head, oh, that's gymnastics, and then turn it over and it's correct. You really need to make sure that you are using your voice so that it actually connects, if that makes sense. You got to connect the dots in that respect. Also, sometimes it's important that you actually talk to outside people, like your friends really. Have like a study group. I know for some people, and I found like especially this year, it's been particularly helpful when like you're actually out with other people so that you can actually ask them questions as they come up. Because sometimes that's the one thing that can truly confuse you when you are actually studying alone. You get a question and then all of a sudden it's like a downward slope from there because you're just like, what is going on? And like some people, they go to their phone and then once they get onto their phone, it's a downward slope. Truly like they've hit the downward spiral because now all they're doing is like their phone, they're on Twitter, and it stresses people out. So just talk to other people, talk to real human beings, you know, in life. Next, 3 is to stop, take a break. I know this sounds super weird, especially like with my afro, just like, When I'm saying to study, that doesn't mean to just study your entire life. You have your weekend and you study for 12 hours of the day. That's not a good thing. As my science teacher always said, it's better for you to break up your studying periods and be studying for like 1 hour and then take a break for an hour and then study for another 20 minutes or so than for somebody who would just study throughout and just study 3 hours and you get the same amount of time, but the person who broke it up was actually truly able to learn the material. So it's important that you take like periodic, maybe 20-minute, 15-minute breaks, and that's when you definitely need to have your timer on your phone, because if you are going to be using your phone during those break periods, then you want to make sure that you don't prolong your break period and then you're only in a break. So again, you just got to make sure that you manage your time wisely, because as soon as exam season hits, you can't just go back. You can't just stay in the past and wish that you had started studying earlier. This is the time that you have, so this is what you're going to have to do. So the next thing that I have on my list is number 4. If it's not too cold where you live, try and go outside. Fresh air tends to really help stimulate your senses and help you study, help you really do well when it comes to like focusing. Even just getting out of your space, maybe just taking a trip to a coffee shop and studying there just so you can get outside of your room or wherever you like to study, that can be helpful in your study journey. So number 5 is definitely to make sure that you are taking care of yourself. If you feel yourself getting sick, definitely take a break. Get yourself some medicine just so you can knock it out really fast. Drink a glass of tea. Make sure that you're actually eating properly. Don't skip meals just because it's time for exams. Also try and make sure, especially the day before the exam, that you set out all of your things beforehand so that when you wake up you can get a nice breakfast and you can not be super stressed to actually get to the exam, so that you can actually get there with enough time to spare. But I will talk about that towards the end of the video. Number 6 is just to sleep. Make sure that you're not just drinking caffeine just so you can have like your all-nighters or whatever. Make sure that you are sleeping, you are getting rest, because your body, even though we hate to like mention it, your body does need sleep and it does need time to process these things that you're learning. You have to remember that and just be nice to yourself, treat yourself correctly. Make sure you're nourishing yourself and you're taking care of yourself during this study process. So depending on whenever you are watching this video, this will be possible or it won't be possible, but I definitely say to start early. It's so important to start studying early, because as soon as exam season hits, it's almost like all of the teachers decide that they have to finish whatever they were expecting to do by the end of the semester. And as soon as they realize that, everything piles on top of each other. And don't even forget that also we're going to be going into holiday season, so you're going to have a lot of family obligations also. So it's really important that you go ahead and start early so that you aren't affected by any outside noise per se that could cloud your judgment and not allow you to have as great of a study time or as long of a study time as you would want. So I definitely say to start early. If that's not possible, then definitely don't get caught up in the fact that you didn't start early. Just use the time that you have wisely, and definitely make sure that you are spending time on the things, not necessarily that you want to study, but on the things that you have to study, and you can really prioritize based on that. For instance, with me, I know that there's a couple of subjects that I definitely need to study for, and that would be like AP Chem and even AP History, because there's dates that I have to make sure that I learn, and also math. But where for other classes that I've heard that you can't really study for, I'll go through my notes briefly. I'm still saying that I'm going to study, but I'm not going to study as hard for those classes, because I realize that especially if you have your grade high enough and you can actually take a hit from like a bad exam grade, you have to take all of that into consideration when you're studying, because if you have a lot of classes, I'm talking to you high school students, then you have to truly prioritize. And going with starting early, my next tip is to also ask your teachers what their exam format is. That can change the game with how you study. For instance, with math, our teachers actually tend to have multiple choice exams. Now, the reason why that changes the game is it means that in some questions, you don't even need to know how to do the problem. You just need to know how to eliminate answers that you know are wrong. So I know like for some questions, it'll be like find the zeros of 5x to the 4th power plus 3x squared plus 3x cubed plus x plus 2. How do you find the zeros for that? Now, when you have a question like that, you don't actually have to find the zeros for yourself. All you have to do is just use your calculator and plug them into the equation. So if you already know going into the exam that it's going to be multiple choice, everything's going to be multiple choice, then you need to plan accordingly to know, okay, there's certain things that are going to be on this exam that I don't need to study for because I have a calculator and I know how to find it on my calculator, and I'll be able to find the answer that way. That's also like for your history too. Like maybe he's going to say expect to have one essay on your exam at least, and then also there's going to be a DBQ. If you already know that going into the exam, you won't be surprised, so you know to pace yourself. You need to go ahead and make sure that you get through all of the multiple choice questions fast enough so that you leave yourself enough time to do the long essay question and also the document-based question, because both of those will take a large chunk of your exam time. So that's like my suggestions, especially like when you're studying also. If you know like for your history that it's going to be an AP style exam, you can't really study for an AP style exam. Yes, you know what you've learned this year and that he's not going to give you anything that's you haven't learned yet, but you know that yes, I'll learn the stuff that will probably be on the multiple choice questions, but I can't necessarily plan for the document-based questions or the long essay questions other than to practice writing just to make sure I don't go too fast and burn myself out. That's really, really important that you pace yourself out for all of these exams. Because I know, like, especially for me, I have 2 exams a day. And because you have 2 exams a day, you have to make sure that you don't put too much effort towards one exam or you will not be able to finish the next exam. Which sounds sort of weird because you do have a break period, but some people, they truly can burn themselves out and then it's like they hit rock bottom. So you don't want to be that person, especially during exams. So my next thing is to use your resources. So use your teachers, make sure that you ask them questions to know what topics that will be on their exams, but also just use your resources that are online. Then definitely actually use Quizlet and vocabulary.com just to learn your material. Then also I suggest this, if you do make note cards for your vocabulary, check and see if you can actually bring those in. I know like for my school, you can, if you have those, you aren't allowed to use phones or anything in the testing room, but you are allowed to bring in like note cards and study for your next exam. So it's very important, like if you have something on Quizlet, that you transfer it over to note cards, and that's what you can actually be studying after you finish your exam, if you finish it early. My last thing is actually an app, which is one of the resources that I was going to talk about, and it's called Forest, and it's called Forest Stay Focused, and basically what it does is it locks up your phone by actually allowing you to grow a tree, and it sounds really weird, but basically you can actually build your own forest. And how it works is it tells you that you can't get on your phone by saying that you're growing a tree. If you get out of the app, the tree dies. So if you want to build yourself a big enough forest, then you won't actually get out of the app, and it helps you stay focused on whatever you need to be studying. And it actually has it on the laptop, and it also has it on your phone. And I know it's on Apple and Android. If you have a phone and if you have a laptop of any kind, basically, you have no excuse to not use this app. And I know it's helped me a tiny bit when I'm studying on my computer in particular, because I tend to get distracted. I'm not gonna lie, I definitely do. So, yeah. I hope these tips, I know I was a little bit all over the place, I'm so sorry, but I hope these tips help you guys to get prepared for your exams and also to ace them, because you got this. You've already been learning this entire year. Definitely make sure that you look over all of your notes and that you just generally prepare yourself. You can definitely do this. You can do it. If you don't hear it from anybody else, hear it from me. You can ace this and you can do it. So, without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any other tips, definitely let us know down below, because this is a community. We all like to help each other. And yeah, I guess that's all for me. I gotta go ahead and get started studying. Whoop, whoop. Bye, guys.